let me ask you your own psychology.
Sure.
You're going after some of the richest, some of the most powerful people in the world. Do you worry about your own financial, legal, and psychological well-being?
Uh, yes. Yeah,
Uh,
I do. I mean, I'm not totally oblivious to the precariousness of like any kind of journalism like this. Obviously, there's risks. I've always believed there's a quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but I hope you guys understand the spirit of it. Um, news is when you print something someone else doesn't want you to print. Everything else is public relations. I really believe to do meaningful journalism, you have to go after people. Like, it's not inherently a safe profession. I mean, if you're going to do important work, you have to have risk tolerances. And I think everyone has a line of what that risk tolerance is, and it's different for everyone. I don't think I could do what Edward Snowden did. I think that would be my bright red line, is going against my own government. It's such a, in my opinion, I really see him as a hero. Like, it's such a selfless act of self-destruction. You know that the party you're going after has all the power and will crush you. And you do it anyway out of the true, I don't know, platonic ideal of journalism. I think that's beautiful. I don't think I could do that. I think I need some ability to live and subsist in the society that I am in. And I think my bright red line would be like, if I'm forced to flee the country for my work, I think I'd finally have to say no. But as journalists go, I take risk pretty well. I especially think risk is important to take when you're young and when you can do that. I think I'm married. So when I have a family, I think I will probably dial this risk thing down, just being honest. I mean, I think you kind of have to. But right now, I'm kind of like running on all cylinders. I'm willing to take on quite a range of people. But
well, you're
yeah, I think a
also
lot about it.
a wolf pack of one, or small
Yeah.
wolf pack, as opposed to having like a New York Times behind you, or a huge organizations with lawyers, with a team, with a history, with
These people are less courageous. This is the dirty truth. The bigger the organization, the more conservative a lot of them are. It's true that sometimes they and this is not to bash big organizations. I'm just saying this as an observation of someone who's talked to a lot of people. And especially in the world of fraud, a lot of them are scared to engage in fraud that is obvious but hasn't been litigated yet. This is why you'll never see documentaries about ongoing fraud on Netflix. It's too much of a liability. They'll sue Netflix to hell. And they know that if they win, Netflix has the money to pay it. So corporations like the New York Times, a lot of these, some of them are they're as courageous as they can be. But at the bottom line, if someone sues you to hell and back and you have to pay up, you will disappear. And you're relying on liability insurance, which you're already paying out the ass for, to try to cover you if you get sued. But if you get sued, even if you win, that liability insurance now goes up in price the next year. And if you're the New York Times, it goes up by a lot. So, I think there's work that independent journalists can do uniquely that they can actually take, in some ways, more risk than a giant institution, which has a lot more, in my sense, to lose, even though it would appear like they have more in terms of defense too.
but you can be bullied legally.
Yeah.
Do you get afraid of that?
Sure. I just, all these things are things you have to be aware of and then forget to do your job. Like, you have to be, it's like being like a snowboarder, and it's like, do you realize you could hit your head? And it's like, yeah, of course. But in order to go do the flip or whatever, you have to just accept the risk, mitigate the risk as much as possible, and move on. So we have like insurance. We keep like a pool of funds for that kind of thing. Like, I'm very conservative with how I spend my money, basically all on production and like trying to make my life as secure as I can. And then I just do the work that I want to do, because.
So 99% of your fund goes into the studio, and then into that elaborate space of yours.
Yeah, of course.
How many kittens had to die to manufacture that studio? But anyway, that's my investigation for later. What keeps you mentally strong through all of this? What's your source of mental strength, or your psychological strength through this?
I think there was a time when I was getting a lot of cease and desists. Some people were like actually like saying like they're going to show up to my house, all that kind of stuff. I don't think I was that. I think I was pretty worried about that for a while. My wife was a huge source of strength here, where she was like, "Hey, if you're not comfortable with it, you need to get out of the game, or you need to basically like suck it up and like this is what it is. If you're going to go after these people, you have to basically be mentally strong around this." And seeing her have that realization helped me have the same realization. And I really deeply admire and respect that about her. And it solved a lot of my concerns around that. It just made me realize every profession has risks. It is what it is. You mitigate and then you move on.
Why do you think there's so few journalists like you? You're basically the embodiment, at least in the space you operate, of what great journalism should be. Why do you think there's very few like you?
That's such an enormous compliment and probably overstatement. But I first want to pay respect. There are a lot of great journalists, and a lot of them are like, I don't want to just kind of take it and go, yeah, it's just me. There's so many great journalists. Matt Levine, Kelsey Piper, you've got anonymous journalists like Dirty Bubble. You've got citizen journalists like Tiffany Fong. But I think if you're going to be in this space in the long term, you do need to accept certain risks. And I think in the long term, it's like, I don't know how easy it is to play that game for a long period of time, because to do great journalism, you don't get paid a lot compared to what you could get paid if you did press pieces or anything like that. You take a lot of risks legally. You take physical risks. It's just like, if you care about money, it's not the profession. And I feel like a lot of people, when they get notoriety, they move to like, well, I can just maximize the money security side of things. And I think it takes out a lot of would-be great journalists.
And also, so first of all, comfort of physical and mental well-being.
Yes.
And also being invited to parties with powerful people.
Access.
You make enemies, rich and powerful enemies doing this.
Yes.
But that's why it's admirable. I mean, it's an interesting case study that you've been doing it as long as you have. And I hope you keep doing it. But it's just interesting that it's rare.
I'll say, I want to make a call. Like, I think societies can create better journalists and worse journalists insofar as they support the journalists who are doing great work. And I want to call out Edward Snowden specifically, because what we have done to him is such a travesty. And the only lesson you can learn if you're a logical human being is that you should never whistleblow on the United States government after looking at what they did to Snowden. So as a society, we can put pressure on lawmakers to make it easier for people to do the great work by not punishing the people who do great work, if that makes sense, and de-risking it for them. Because we shouldn't expect journalists to be martyrs to do great work, right? To do important work. And part of that comes from protecting whistleblowers. There's like very common sense things. I love, like, it's great to heroicize, people like Edward Snowden and stuff like that, but we shouldn't expect them to be heroes to do that work.